Like I discussed in my previous Summer Camp Island video, I briefly mentioned Susie and her character and how deep it goes. Susie Mcallister isn't just a camp counselor who happens to be a witch. She's a character that fully embodies what it means to be a character who has lived for such a long time, that is shaped through interaction, relationships, and circumstance that further defines who she is. As a 400-year-old immortal witch, Susie has had no choice but to continue through life, knowing that she would always be the last one standing in all aspects of her life mentioned earlier. Susie Mcallister may be a witch, but beneath that title lives a girl who was once a bright-eyed optimist that looked forward to what life had to offer before reality reared its head. So let's start things off light by exploring Susie's overall attitude at camp and just why she is that way. In the season 1 episode Susie Appreciation Day, Susie is finally allowed a vacation day off that she hardly ever gets, once a year. So she decides to spend it in her cabin, like a staycation type situation. Already into the episode, we just see how annoyed and irritated Susie is around her fellow campers, so she wants time away from them. Hedgehog and Oscar, though, are curious and decide to sneak into her cabin, but are trapped inside, as they both try everything they can to escape. Susie, on the other hand, is just unwinding, letting herself relax from all her worries. But it is here where we are introduced to the beginning of Susie's many various complicated relationships, as her best friend Ramona calls over her mirror, and Susie's whole demeanor immediately shifts in real time, not even wanting to keep small talk with Ramona, making us as viewers really wonder what really happened in their friendship to warrant this reaction, due to it being, this season 1 episode that is very early. Susie ends up cutting the call short, but Ramona still, considers her a friend. This tells us that there is still hope for their friendship to be repaired in the future, at least from one side. This episode is rather short and insignificant at first watch, but as you rewatch it, there are handwritings on the wall when it comes to Susie's overall relationships and how they've affected her. She may be a witch, like I said before, and an immortal, but she's still a person with a beating heart that craves for real interaction and friendship. And in the next episode, we see just how not having that will affect Susie both mentally and physically. In the episode, Susie's Arc, Susie is left distraught after her best friend Ramona leaves. And we see that without Ramona, Susie can barely function, not even looking forward to doing what she loves the most, magic, as it's just an afterthought to her now. One day though, she receives a call from Ramona, but it's not their usual type of convo, as Ramona tasks her with something urgent, as magic is disappearing all over New York, and she wants Susie to bring it back. But Susie really isn't moved to do anything about it. Like I said before, she didn't care as much about magic as she used to. But there's a kicker.
Who even cares about magic anymore? Nothing we do gets you out of frozen time.
But what if I told you this will get me out of frozen time?
What?
Ramona tells, Susie that this could be their only way of reuniting again. And that is all Susie needed to hear, which further reinforces that Susie needs friends like Ramona to really motivate her to do virtually anything, as she is a big driving force for why Susie does what she does. Susie goes to New York in search of anything and anybody that could have a slither of magic in them. So Susie decides that the best thing for her to do is to start a summer camp, where they'll come to her and she'll have a much easier time restoring magic. And that is what she does, which, proves successful. As Susie calls Ramona to tell her the good news, she discovers the truth in that this wouldn't bring Ramona back. And this moment further drives a rift in their friendship, as Susie now feels betrayed and used like a dog by, someone she considers her best friend. This episode really delves into Susie and her friendships, especially with Ramona, on why it was so important and integral to her, but doesn't shy away from showing why it collapsed as well. One of the many other, complicated relationships Susie has is with her sister Mildred, where their relationship takes on many forms through the course of time, but it ends up remaining strong in the end. I'll discuss Susie's flashback arcs in 3 parts, and out of those 3 parts, I'll be talking about 2 of them, and I'll discuss the first of the 3 being Heather's, where we see what Susie's beginnings looked like, as we see a very young and small Susie playing in this small garden-like setting called the Heathers, and we see her relationship with, magic still being strong as it ever was, as she believes that she could do magic. We are also introduced to her parents, who are very encouraging of Susie's practice, often believing in her, even though they are aware that she can't actually do magic. The dynamic, though, in the family shifts, as both, parents are expecting a child, but Susie, in good spirit, couldn't be more happier in getting a sister. And as time passes, Mildred is born, and we see just how much of a prodigy she is at magic, as she performs it right out the womb. But once again, Susie, thinks she's the one doing the spells, further enabling her warped reality of magic. As some time passes, Susie starts, beating herself up about where she stands right now in comparison to her sister. As being older, she isn't able to do magic, but her younger sister is doing it at such a high level. She feels unworthy of attending her gibbous rite, which is this ceremony all mages have to go to fully become a mage. And so Mildred and Susie discuss their aspirations and what they want out of life, as Susie just wants to remain in their hometown, becoming the best mage, whereas Mildred wants to explore the world. And while she says this, her magic spurs out of control, almost symbolizing just how unrestricted Mildred wants to be in life. In the second part of this arc, we see just the level of responsibility and role Susie has to play in order to keep her sister in control. In the episode Hot Corn Girls, Susie is tasked with keeping their parents' motive for leaving a secret from Mildred. The kids now have to stay with their grandma, but obviously just from the appearance and creepy vibes she's giving off, you would know why the girls, make their next decision, as they decide to go to London. And they tell their grandma about it, and she's just okay with it, which is pretty hilarious because she's so nonchalant about it. So as both Susie and Mildred arrive in London, we see that the girls have to start street hawking to survive, and they decide to sell hot corn on the street. Some time passes as both girls have settled into their hot corn selling business. We see that Susie has become of age to start her gibbous rite ceremony, saving each family heirlooms she believes would be needed for it. We see that now settled into their new lives, Susie still has magic on the top of her priority, as she's still very interested in becoming a mage, but it seems now it isn't just limited to her hometown, but becoming the best mage in the country. Susie gets a letter from an acquaintance of her parents that, says that her parents have disappeared somewhere without a trace, leaving an already anxious and terrified Susie even more terrified, as now her chances of, doing the gibbous rite is slim, now that her parents aren't around. So to get her mind off things, her and Mildred sell some hot corn, as they encounter Susie's bullies, and Mildred, being a very concerned younger sister, calls her bullies over in order for them to acknowledge Susie, just being an older sister. Susie is embarrassed by this whole gesture, and this moment right here establishes a defining moment in her character, as she is challenged to drink an immortal potion, but Susie rejects the idea at first, but then thinks about her gibbous rite, knowing that she needs her parents, so she decides to drink the potion anyway, believing that this, will save her some time for her parents to return, as she will biologically and physically remain 15 years old, where she will always be eligible for the gibbous rite. This is a very character-defining moment for her, as this was a decision she made knowing the consequences that came with it. Susie runs into Mildred as she's in her room, as she discovers the fact that the heirlooms and artifacts that she's been saving up have been destroyed, and this sets a wrench in their overall sisterhood and relationship, resulting in Susie blacking out at Mildred, exposing the truth her parents begged her not to tell Mildred about.
I come back because of you! If you could have ever just learned to be a pinch reserved, we'd all be in the moors right now.
So we shift to Susie being able to, carry out her gibbous rite, as she finds out by her boss that it was relatively easy in the first place. And with that, Susie undergoes her gibbous rite and is able to become a full-fledged mage. Even though this episode ends on a pretty high note, as everything Susie has ever wanted have finally been achieved, which is becoming a mage, but unfortunately at the cost of losing what was really important, which was her relationship with Mildred, further pushing her into this void of loneliness, and now being immortal only enhances that experience. The next episode further dives into Susie's journey in becoming a mage, but also sets an expectation that can never be reached. In the season 6 episode, Susie's Sleepover, like the title implies, Susie has a sleepover in her cabin and she talks about her past, and this is the 6th season, so Susie's a lot more open and transparent. This, is formatted as a story time. Then we get a little flashback of Susie as she just, settled into Massachusetts from England for a better life for her and her sister. Once again, taking on the responsibility. Susie does what she usually does best, where she, instantly adapts to her new environment, deciding to put her years of hot corn selling to the test, but figures that it's damn near impossible as there is a bigger and better competitor. So she decides that she'll work at a shop, making proposals like it's, second nature, with her bold attitude. But, the owners aren't rocking with her and they aren't on board. So moving on, 3 months have already gone by and still no sign of Mildred. So she decides to look for her through weather patterns, as Mildred's magic is still out of control and is also related to the weather. In her voyage, Susie meets a Yeti who is able to help her get in touch with nature to further help her find Mildred. The next episode I discuss showcases the resentment Susie still feels and how she treated Mildred, not wanting history to repeat itself with one of her own campers. In the season 2 episode, Meeting of the Minds, Hedgehog and Oscar are running, to retrieve Hedgehog's wand back from Susie, and they are both able to figure out where Susie is as she's in a meeting at a bank. But, Hedgehog runs into an old nemesis of hers. We cut to Susie as she's holding a meeting with, her staff to discuss her reasons for confiscating Hedgehog's wand, as it brought her back to a core memory she had of Mildred and how Mildred was once regarded as a witch prodigy, which led her down a dark and wild path. And so with Hedgehog, she's almost given a second chance to do what she couldn't with Mildred in protecting Hedgehog, because just like Mildred, Hedgehog is also, praised for being a prodigy, but she doesn't want Hedgehog to go down the same path her sister did. Hedgehog makes it to the meeting and insists that, her wand be given back, but Hedgehog's attitude was similar to Mildred's, which reinforces why Susie feels the way she does, believing that Hedgehog just isn't ready. Ramona appears deciding that Hedgehog be taught by Susie, but Susie of course is angered by this, but will still do it anyways. This episode I am going to discuss next will bring Susie's character arc to a close, concluding and resolving all of her inner battles and thoughts that help Susie grow and move on from her past. In the season 6 episode Swellington Boots, interesting title by the way, after the loss of magic in town, everyone at camp is left to remain inside the library as shelter. This leaves Susie depressed, believing that she is the cause of the tornado forming, as it represents the 400 years of baggage Susie, has been harboring. Susie continues down a downward spiral of guilt, thinking that she's a horrible person, believing that all of her relationships ended badly because of her. Oscar's mom, though, drops some really encouraging words for Susie to look her trauma in the eye and confront it head on.
Back to that original spot. Though difficult and painful, it's much less damaging confronting it than when we pull away. Give yourself room to move. Breathe.
And yet, in the next episode, Susie does just that. But Susie realizes that this won't be easy as the tornado is strong and ravaging, leaving her discouraged, believing that she'll never overcome her past. Oscar, though, encouraging Susie as both, go to the deepest parts of Susie's psyche. And Susie musters up the courage to face the tornado, and with the help of Oscar, she's able to conquer the tornado and reunite with Mildred, repairing their sisterhood and putting an end to Susie's 400 years of trauma and past. I'm sorry guys, but I actually lied. The last and final episode I do talk about closes out Susie's character. What better way to end an arc of a character than with the last and final episode of the series? In the episode It Takes Time, Susie is asleep and she wakes up greeted by this beautiful looking creature that is the manifestation of time. And it tells Susie that she can reverse her immortality. And since beforehand being an immortal, the concept of time didn't really apply to her. But now she has the opportunity to be normal again. She accepts the offer and even includes Mildred on it as well. We get the funny scene though with both, girls doing some weird vocal and body movement. And with that, they are turned to normal again. But, both Mildred and Susie look forward to their new lives as, mortals again, wanting to age and explore. And we see that Mildred is a little hesitant due to her inability to control her magic still. So she's not the most excited for magic to be restored. Susie actually had a private conversation with Time beforehand about how they can restore magic. And he drops some jewels about the balance between friendship and time being the equation needed for magic. And if either is thrown out of whack, then magic ceases to exist.
Equation. Friendship plus time preserves magic. It's a cosmic balance. Time is salty, friendship sweet.
So Susie holds a meeting with the campers and Mildred to try and figure out what this means. And Oscar brilliantly crafts up a peanut butter and honey sandwich representing the equation perfectly, as it is a perfect balance of sweet and salty. And this is what is used to bring magic back, replacing the diamonds they once had before. Everything returns to normal, including her best friend Ramona. And Susie just can't contain herself as soon as she sees her. The camp, holds a little gather round from both campers to counselors as they promise to forge a new generation of magic. And that is how the episode ends, folks. This episode does a really good job of, bringing Susie's story full circle, as her relationships that were broken or just left unrepaired were restored and revitalized even. She was mentally and emotionally free of the baggage that weighed her down for 400 years, not to mention the immortality aspect that made her dissimilar to time, being reversed, freeing her physically from the, concept of never aging and fully growing. Susie Mcallister is a character that embodies the term immortal, and how, without proper preparation and support, could be a nightmare instead of a dream that could never fully end. Susie Mcallister is like one of my favorite characters in the entire series, so I really enjoyed doing a character analysis on her video, and I want to hear what you guys thought about this video and what you thought about Susie Mcallister's character, my English. And yeah, man, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. If you guys have any other suggestions for me on what character I should do next, please comment it down in the comment section down below. And yeah, man, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.